Hello and welcome to the Power of Passive Investing. We have a return guest today, actually, Nikita Zhitov. And this time we're not going to talk about real estate. This time we'll talk about the other side, the personal side. Nikita will share one recent journey that he went on, which some would call vacation, some would call a challenge. But I will let you, the audience, to be the judge of it. Nikita, welcome. We're so happy to have you back.
Thank you for having me, Alina. Great to be back.
Thank you. Thanks. It's our pleasure to host you again. For those that have not heard your first interview about your real estate journey, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As Alina said, Nikita, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've been a commercial real estate investor and developer pretty much my entire adult life, since I was 18. Bought my first apartment building my senior year in high school at the age of 18 by accident. Didn't know anything about real estate other than how to spell home, Home. I knew pretty much that was the extent of my real estate knowledge. So stumbled into it by accident, with intent, but still by accident. And I quickly got hooked on it, and this became a passion of mine, and my career ever since. So going on for 21 years now.
Awesome, exciting. And Nikita, so without any further ado, let's dive into your recent experience. Please share with our audience where did you go and what was the purpose of this trip?
Yeah, I was climbing a mountain in South America, in Mexico. I think that was the volcano in North America, Pico de Arizaba, and it's the third highest elevation peak in North America after Denali and Jacob, which are in Alaska and Canada. So elevation around 5,600 meters and some change, 18,500 feet, plus or minus. So yeah, it was a very technical climb, different from the previous ones I've done, because this one involved using crampons and ice axe and climbing through a nice glacier that have crevasses and which added complexities and risks and dangers. So, but I'm very, very glad I did it. It was definitely probably one of the hardest physical things I've done, and probably second or third or fourth mental hardest thing I've done in my life. So it really puts you to a test, you know.
Yeah, please share with us why did you decide to do it?
Friends of mine, friends of mine invited me and say, hey, we're gonna be climbing a mountain. It's commercial real estate guys from different parts of the country, different cities. So we kind of have a mastermind, and sometimes once a year we do a misogi, what some people call misogi. It's basically a challenge that you have less than 50% chances of succeeding. You kind of want to do, some people do one misogi a month, which is overkill, but I like to do one a year, where learn a new skill. Like, a number of years ago, I learned how to fly airplanes and got my pilot's license. Another year, I decided, hey, I want to learn how to ride horses and, like, fast cantering style. And so it was my challenge for that year. I learned how to ride horses. Another year, I decided, like, I've never had a year for musical instruments. So one year I decided, like, hey, I like classical music. I'm gonna learn how to play piano. I was at zero previous musical experience. Hired a tutor, and I only had three objectives. So, like, hey, my goal for, yeah, I will consider this a success if by the end of the year I learned how to play Beethoven sonatas, Moonlight Sonata for Elise, and also one Mozart composition, Turkey. Um,
The Fifth Symphony?
Yeah, Turkey Tundra, I think that's what it's called in English. But anyway, so that was considered. I learned by the end of the year how to play all three compositions. So that was, kind of my Misogi. So this year, Misogi was climbing a mountain over ice glacier and summiting, which, when you're getting high elevations, there is less oxygen. So it was both physical endurance, mental, and and just getting your cardio and lungs acclimated to high altitudes, and make sure you survive all these different challenges.
I was gonna ask, when you said that you do different misogi every year, is misogi goal to survive? Because it sounds like a lot of them are pretty challenging.
Yeah, it's not to survive, it's to test your limits. Yes, I don't know who said it, but somebody said it, one of these books I've read.
Maybe general
Only,
comments. We'll go.
only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can actually go. So you don't know what your limits are if you don't test yourself, right? Plus,
Yeah. Sounds
you
like David Goggins, but maybe it's not him.
know, so it's not. It's somebody from ancient Greece, one of the maybe Aristotle or Plato. But look, life was designed to live outside the comfort zone. Like we don't learn inside of a comfort zone, right? We don't grow inside of a comfort zone. We don't get stretched inside of a comfort zone, and we certainly don't make mistakes in our comfort zone. And mistakes are you oftentimes become your biggest asset. So, intentionally, I'm trying to seek out ways to, go outside the comfort zone. And climbing this mountain was definitely outside my comfort zone. And even when I showed up at the first day, it was an 8-day total trip. I regretted having signed up. I said like, oh geez, like I've been through this before. Why did I sign up myself? Why I'm putting myself through this? I've regretted and wanted to quit so many times. But at the end of the day, you make progress in life. It might seem like unrelated things, but you make progress by doing tough shit, and
Yeah.
excuse my French, but you're doing tough things. That's how you um, feel a sense of worthiness, right? By completing and doing tough things in life. And you can train your body and your mind through meditation to always feel worthy of receiving. And
Yeah.
or a life hack, if you're struggling with meditation, it's life hack. You can just do tough things like run a marathon, or if you're working at a corporate job, I don't know, complete a project. If you're in school, do like a big project, pull all-nighter, and at the end of the pathway of completing a complex project, you feel a sense of worthiness. That's why people get rewarded. That's why people get bonuses, right? And
Of
well,
course.
really because they feel very, very worthy of receiving, and they can get compensated for it. So
Yeah.
here, you can either train your mind to be through meditation and through self-work to feel worthy of receiving, or you can do tough things, and then you're gonna feel very worthy at the end of it. Like you're gonna feel accomplished, and good things just gonna start happening to you. So it's kind of a life hack, but it's because there's other ways to do it without doing anything. If you just train your mind to be in that state. But it's good, even if you know how to do it, it's good to do both. So yeah,
Sounds
it was for selfish reasons. It was to try to do something I haven't done before and test your limits, and B, so that I can feel very, very worthy of having accomplished something at the end of it. And hopefully my life would improve as a result of that feeling, which would benefit my family and my future self as well.
So at the end of the day, was it rewarding? Do you feel that this benefited you and your family?
Yeah, of course, it's I definitely felt like I did it and felt very accomplished. I'm sure other people have felt that when they completed a marathon or something, or completed a Ironman. So which is Ironman is the next on my list, maybe for next year.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent. That's exciting.
half
So
half Ironman,
what's that?
half Ironman.
Oh, half marathon.
I might do a marathon this year. I've never ran more than a couple of miles at a time in my life, so maybe this year I'm gonna do a marathon, and next year I'll do a sprint, and then hopefully by the end of the year I'll be able to do Ironman.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's very exciting. So I didn't know that you're so talented. Maybe at the next interview we'll ask you to play Beethoven for our audience, but
Yeah.
that's next time.
Yeah.
For this time, Nikita, please share with us What was the preparation like for this trip? Like, how long did you prepare? How long did you need to prepare? And was it enough?
Yeah, so I signed up in December. The climb was the second week of March, so I only had like 4 months to prepare. And at first, I started preparing, doing a lot of cycling, a lot of stairmaster in the
Mhm.
gym. Going through 200 flights, 300 flights of stairs for a couple of hours, and did it for about months and a half, and then I kind of got sick in early January. It was, I guess, the bug was going around, and then I had some trips. So I didn't train for like the months and a half right before the climb. I stopped training, so I only had like months and a half of training, which definitely I regretted that when I was there because it was physically very exhausting.
Mhm.
Um, and then I also prepared mentally, just reading books, trying to get myself in the right state of mind, trying to get myself in the peak state, as Tony Robbins said, to get into peak state. So
Yep.
definitely was doing some priming. In that regard, I ordered an oxygen tent, where you basically set it up inside your house and you sleep without oxygen inside the tent. Well, controlled amount of oxygen, the tent's supposed to arrive 8 weeks prior to the trip, so I had time to acclimate. Ended up arriving 2 weeks before the trip, and then it didn't include the power cord. It took them another week to send the power cord. So really, by the time the power cord arrived and I get the tent set up, I only had a week to get acclimated. But I slept in the tent for a week essentially, and um, you know, trying to. You're supposed to sleep between like 80 when your oxygen level between 87 and 92%. And then if it gets more than 92, then you're slipping too low. You need to add 1,000 feet elevation to
Mhm.
your settings. Then if it gets below like 87, then you probably should descend your elevation settings by at least like 1,000 or 2,000 feet. So that you want to sleep with enough oxygen so that you can function normally. And well, because I only had a week to prepare, and I live almost at sea level, so and I had to and I was going to be climbing 18,000 feet. So at least I was trying to get acclimated to 12 to 14,000 feet.
Sure.
Uh, and I had to jam it up in a week. So I immediately went to like 10,000 feet and then the next day. And so I slept the whole week at like oxygen level between 65 and 75%.
My God.
Basically, it makes it your sleep not very, very pleasant. You basically don't sleep through the night. You constantly waking up and kind of in this dreamy state. And you also wake up with a huge headache, like a splitting headache every night because of lack of oxygen.
Of course.
So you kind of a pain, putting yourself through this pain. Well, whether you call it pain or growth, whatever, but I realize I'd rather experience some pain now than on the mountain. And, on the mountain, it's easy. If you're not acclimated, it's easy to get AMS, acute mountain sickness, or worse, cerebral edema, where your brain swells and you can die or go in a coma and, from brain swelling. So, um, yeah, so I kind of put myself through a little bit of pain before the trip, and when we got there, we had very, very good guides. By the way, advice for anybody who is considering climbing mountains: A, never climb by yourself. B, always climb with a guide, who is experienced guide who know what they're doing, because there are just too many ways to die on the mountain. Even if it's just a hiking mountain, not technical climb,
Mhm.
you can get you know, signs of AMS or cerebral edema, and you're not even gonna know it. You're just gonna be confused. So if you have people with you, they can notice it and can help you descend quickly, because it can progress very quickly, and you know, um, you can die very easily from
Great
it.
advice. Thank you.
Yeah, and also never go on a ice glacier undroped. There's plenty of stories that uh, guides and other members of our group shared when they went at different mountains, in South America or North America, like Denali, and somebody goes on the summer day on a glacier undroped and falls through crevasse, and that's it, they die, or they suffer several severe health issues, even if they do get rescued and they do survive. So yeah, never go on ice glacier undroped, for sure.
Great advice. So what was it like? You were there for what, about 7 to 10 days altogether?
8 days, and we arrived in Mexico City. It's at 7,000 feet elevation. So first day we drove up to 10,000 feet, the base of a small mountain locally, and did a day hike, which took like 6 hours still to climb and descend. But we went from 10,000 feet to 13, and then descended back to 10, and slept at 7. The next day we went from 7 to 10, stayed at 10, and then went from 10 to climb 14.5, summited another mountain called La Malinche, which is I think the third largest in that region. It was at 14,500 feet, descended back to 10 because you want to climb high, slip low. So climb to 14, which took like 8 hours round trip, 5 hours to climb, 3 hours to descend. And yeah, by the first time, like when we were doing the first day hike from 10 to 13, you know, 15 minutes into the trip, like I'm already out of breath, and I'm looking at my watch and it's like 163 heartbeat. I'm in zone 5, and it's like, oh, this is not looking very good. This is supposed to be easy day hike, you know. That's when I started like questioning whether or not I can make it. So anyway, back to Malinche. So climb from 10 to 14.5, back to 10, and then next day we go from 10 to 14. This is now at the base of Pico de Arizaba. We go from slept in some hostel at 10,000 feet, and went to base camp, which was at 14,000 feet, and stayed there, set up a base camp there. And I go from 14,000 feet to 15.5, and then descend back to 15 and set up a high camp at 15,000. So that's a high camp. That's the camp we slept on before the summit day. And then on summit day, you wake up essentially very early, 2 o'clock in the morning, get your gear, your Michelin man suit on, you know, you have 6 layers of clothing, and
Wow.
started climbing. It's a very long day, 8 hours to climb, another 7 to descend.
What
Physically
was the,
exhausting, mentally exhausting, but
of course,
yeah.
what was the temperature like?
It was cold. I had 3 layers of pants, like under layer, then soft shell, and essentially ski pants on top. Had 2 layers of gloves. Had 6 layers of upper layers. So you want to layer from the bottom up, so that when you get hot, if you're comfortable at the base camp, then you have to make a layers on. So you need to be just slightly uncomfortable. So to me, that was, I had a t-shirt, long john, kind of a long sleeve, and then a sweater on top, then a fleece jacket on top, then a puffy jacket on top of that, and then a 8,000 meter parka, which is the one you would take on Everest. That was the 6th layer. And at one point in time, I started like sweating, so I immediately take off a layer. So you don't want to, which you take the upper layer off, so that you don't want to sweat. It's gonna make it very painful. So you want to stay just uncomfortable where you don't sweat and you don't get cold. And I had to put it back on once we get to the bottom of Ice Glacier, because it was getting colder. The higher you go.
So as you're climbing up, you were also carrying a backpack, right? Because the park
Yeah,
was
you're
somewhere.
getting probably 30, 40 pounds of backpack, because you going through different periods. So I had to carry the crampons on, some snacks, water, and some additional, emergency kits, some additional layers. So second set of gloves in case you lose them, on the mountain. Yeah, and then you climb through a rocky element. Then you take out your crampons to go through ice section, and then you get through ice section. You take the crampons off. That's the worst, by the way. Putting them on and taking them off, because when you go on and you have a pace, you're kind of in the mode, and you just keep going. But as soon as you take a rest or take a break, and you sit down, and and then picking the pace back up, it's the worst. Uh,
Right.
so that's why this made it very challenging, because you have to take those breaks to put crampons on, then take them off, then put them back on. Again, it's yeah, it was what made it more difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, as you're describing it, it already sounds very, very challenging to me. So, take our audience through several days. You know, you mentioned kind of that at the beginning, in the early days, you're thinking this is already too much, and this was an early hike. Talk to us about days 3 to 5, kind of what's going through your head, and what are you
Uh,
thinking?
so the second mountain to get acclimated, we were climbing Lama Linche, which was going from the camp at 10,000 feet to 14,500, the summit.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, our group had, I don't know, 10 people plus several guides, so maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 people. And again, everybody, we wake up at 4:30 in the morning, leave at 5 o'clock in the morning to summit that mountain. And you know, I'm the last one at the end of the pack, and I'm exhausted. But I learned because I went to climb Kilimanjaro in 2023 in Africa. Uh, one of the things they tell you in the mountain, the local porters and guides, they have a saying called "pole pole." They keep telling you "pole pole" throughout the entire trip. It means slow, slow, like go slow, and they go very slow, like one step at a time, like slower than you normally walk.
Sure.
So I'm just like doing pole pole, Malinche, and obviously, you know, one of the guys had to stay back and kind of go at my pace. And it's like I didn't care because everybody charged ahead. They're running fast. I said, there's very small chance I'm even gonna make it. So I'm just gonna increase my chances of making it by just going at my pace, even if I separate from my group. So and eventually they would take a break every 45 minutes to an hour and rest to get some water, snacks, and I would catch up to them. And by the time I catch up, it's like, okay, everybody got dressed, ready to go again. I said, like, okay, you guys go. I just got here. I'm gonna take my time to rest. But I just kind of did it. It's not a challenge like, oh, who is better, who's gonna get there first. You don't have to look at, you know, your friends and your teammates and the rest of the group, because you're not competing against them. You're kind of competing against yourself. So that's the way I looked at it. This is the challenge, like, of me become a better version of myself. So I just want to make sure I make it. So if it means I'm gonna be going by myself and apart from the rest of the group and go super slow, to keep my primarily I was trying to get my heart rate, make sure I
Yeah.
stay in a zone 3, like, you know, stay like under 140, maybe ideally in 130s. Ideally in 120s, but you know, so I just was trying to monitor my heart rate, and if it looked like it was getting into 150s and up, then I would slow down. I would slow down and try to
Smart.
focus my breath. So that helped the best. It's helpful to have the watches like Garmin, that monitors and your heart rate and things like that.
That was very smart of you. So, as you were getting into the final phase of your trip, and you know, once you climbed back, uh, share with us, please, what was going on through your head? What is that? What does it feel like? And what were you thinking at that point?
So once I summited Lama Linche, which is 14.5, I knew like halfway through it, I didn't think I was gonna make it. And then once I summited, I got confidence, like, okay, looks like I'm gonna be able to make the big mountain, the peak of the Arizaba, because on that day we went from 10 to 14.5. It's
Mhm.
4,500 feet in one day. And the summit day of Pico de Rizaba went from 15 to 18.5. So it's 3,500 feet of gain. Now it's going to be more technical, more difficult, higher elevation, so less oxygen. But still, I got some kind of a confidence boost, like, okay, it looks like I'm going to make it. Now, when we were on Pico de Rizaba on summit day, you know, by the time we got to the base of Ice Glacier, we were like 4 hours into it, right? And I was talking to different guides prior to the summit day. I said, how long does it take to summit? I said, anywhere from like 4.5, 5 hours, could be as much as 9 hours, you know, but you know, people have done it in 4.5, 5 hours. So we got to the base of a ice glacier, and I can see the summit already, and
Mhm.
it's fairly close, you know, and of course you're already exhausted, you're 4 hours into it. And Now I'm thinking like, okay, I see the end is near. It's like it's gonna probably we got another 45 minutes to an hour to go. I can see finish line. I can make it. I can find strength in myself to make it another 45 minutes to an hour,
Sure.
right? So I said, okay, just one more hour and I'll be done with it. Keep going. So we get roped up in groups of 3 and we started slowly climbing. This ice glacier, by the way, 45-degree angle. Between 40 to 50-degree angle, so depending on the places, which I didn't know. They told me that later. So it's pretty steep. So we're climbing, and I'm looking at my watch and like we're an hour into it, and then I'm looking and says, okay, I'm just not trying to look at the top. I'm just looking, ahead of me for the next, 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 2 hours of climbing ice glacier, I'll look up and the summit doesn't seem to be any closer. It's like it's still about the same distance. Like, what's going
Wow.
on? Just like, what is this like? So it's the distance is deceptive. So now I immediately started thinking like, okay, am I hallucinating? Am I having like AMS? And so I started like going through my head, like, okay, do I still remember my wife's name, my kid's name, right? My partner's name. So
Sure.
when you start forgetting names, you have a signs of maybe brain swelling, and you need to start descending, even if you didn't summit it. So it's okay, so I keep doing those self checks every like 10 or 15 minutes. But then it was so exhaustive. I asked the guy like, how much further we have to go? It's like I thought we had an hour to go, and now we're 2 hours into it, and it seems like only halfway through. And he said, oh, about 2 hours to go. I said, there's just no way. And like I like there's no way I'm gonna make it. And the guy that actually discouraged me to turn it around says, keep in mind, even if you make it to the summit, that's only halfway. You still have to descend. It's
Oh,
halfway.
wow. That makes
Said,
sense.
no, I'm gonna keep doing it. So I just keep going, and then I started asking myself questions like, why am I even here? Well, A, I'm here so I don't have to do it again, and I want to make sure I do it. And B, I'm here is because that's how we grow. We test our limits, and that's when I remembered David Goggins' book, which I've read like a month prior to the climb. It kind of hurt me. Great book. I highly recommend it. And he says in the book, like when you think you're done, when you think like you're out, you're exhausted, you were just at 40% capacity. You got, 60% more to go. So that's what I kind of kept telling myself. Like when I would fall on my knees and my rope mates help me get up and like keep going. Like I just says, hey, I'm just at 40% capacity.
Yep.
So and eventually I asked a guy, like I felt like that little kid in the car when you're driving long distance. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So I kept asking my guy, like, hey, the guy who was the guy in my rope group, and he's like, hey, are we there yet? Like, how much more we have to go? He says, hour 20, just about an hour. And so when finally he said we got 40 minutes to go, I felt like, okay, looks like I'm gonna make it. Only 40 minutes of pain and this and then also you start having headaches, and I took ibuprofen, but when your painkillers stop helping, when they stop working, when they're no longer working, that's when like, it's just a matter of time before you start developing altitude sickness. So I said, well, I hope there's enough for me to make it to the summit, spend 20, 30 minutes on top and descend back quick enough. So we make it to the summit, where I see the rest of the group resting again. We're the last group catching up to everybody, and it's a full summit.
Oh my God.
Actual peak, we just get to the edge of a crater, so you see a big hole in the crater. But the actual summit, if you want to be at the peak, you have to go around the crater's edge another like 10 or 15 minutes to get to the actual summit. It's like,
Crazy.
but again, everybody resting. I said, I don't want to rest because if I rest, I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm gonna go back down. So we just kept charging. So we actually were the first group to make it to the summit because we didn't rest at the top of a crater. So we just kept going, got it to the summit, and everybody else caught up. Took some pictures, some videos, give each other a high five. Yeah, got some water, ate some snacks, and started descending because I wanted to descend as quickly as possible before like it's like so. And descending it was just as difficult and just as long, 7 hours.
Wow. It
Down.
is it is pretty long. Tell us, why is the descending is just as difficult?
Because a different set of muscles, and plus you're already so tired and exhausted, and you just keep going. And it's, it's different muscle group that works, I guess. Some of them are the same, I guess, but I don't know. It just physically just is tiring.
Got it.
Yeah, but mentally you feeling better, better because you start feeling better, better. Every 1,000 feet you descend, you start feeling better, better. So by the time I made it back to like a base camp, 14,000 feet felt like sea level to me, and I was like, okay, I feel great.
Mhm. So, Nikita, as you were going home and then when you came back, what was going through your head? What were you thinking in terms of this trip?
Uh, just happiness, joy, uh, sense of accomplishment. Added to my uh list of things, I guess.
Incredible. Other accomplishments? Yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course. Would you consider doing something as challenging as this again?
I want to do Ironman. As far as the mountains, I think I'm done with mountains, at least for a few years. But I kind of got intrigued. Maybe I'll do Everest base camp one day. But for right now, I think I'm done with the mountains. There's just so many ways to die, from falling into a crevasse to stepping on taking a wrong turn and slipping to altitude sickness and cerebral edema. That's the most dangerous phase probably. Um, because even if you're physically fit and stuff, it can sneak up on you, and there's nothing you can do really.
Yeah, no, I like
Other
that.
than descent, yeah. So I don't know. I have young family, so I just don't know if it's worth the risk.
Of
So
course,
that's
of
why I'm
course.
like, I don't think I'm kind of a like I kind of do want to do Everest base camp, but uh, it's I don't know if it's worth the risk for considering I have young kids.
Yeah, yeah, no, of course you have to do the calculated risks and see what's more important. And Ironman is just as challenging, and
Yeah,
there are very few people that do that for
yeah.
sure.
I think it's gonna be my next Osagi.
Got it. That's exciting. Nikita, for those listeners that are considering climbing mountains like the one you did in Mexico, what would be your recommendations in terms of obviously physical preparation, but mental preparation as well?
Have the answers why you're there before you were there. And have an answer to yourself why you're doing this. Because if you don't have that answers clear and you're there, it's actually any big challenge. Like even if you're doing, I don't know, triathlon, right? And it's very tempting to quit, especially on the mountains. You're gonna have so many temptations to just quit, turn around. It's like I can be in a much more comfortable place. Why am I here? Fuck this. Excuse my French again. Like it's just not worth it. If you don't know why you're there, then your chances that you're gonna quit is gonna be 95%. So
Got it.
make sure you know why you're there and have those answers, so that when that questions come up, and they'll surely come up, you'll have them ready. Says, okay, here is why I'm here. So we keep going. I'm not gonna turn around.
I love it. Oh, that's amazing. Do you think doing this climb uh, benefited you as a businessman?
For sure. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
In what ways? Please share with
But
us.
it's just more confidence, confidence. It's all mental, in business too.
Of course.
Confidence, like, okay, we're gonna overcome a challenge, whatever challenge you're facing. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that too. No, that's amazing. Thank you, Nikita. Amazing journey. Thank you for sharing with us your trip. We always ask our audience two personal questions. First of all, where can our listeners find you as a real estate investor? What's the best way?
My email, nikita@cityplat.com. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And
Any
also
social media that they can find you at?
social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Great. And then in terms of the second question, and we talked about this at our last interview, but please feel free to share the same thing or something new if you have something new. How do you like to give back?
I like to inspire young people This is amazing business, commercial real estate. It has ability to transform lives. It has ability to take normal people like myself, take ordinary people like myself and turn them into extraordinary, ability to have extraordinary lives through the tools, the leverage, the tools of real estate. It has ability to take, again, normal people and turn them into multimillionaires and have extraordinary lives, have ability to do things they could never do otherwise, have the resources. That's what this business gives the freedom to people to do.
Yeah, and you're actually an example of all of that, a successful businessman, successful real estate owner and operator that been doing it for many years and started, as you said, with only knowing how to spell the word home whenever it's in.
Yeah. So
amazing story.
So
And
what I like to do to give back is I like to inspire people and young people especially, and show them the vision that it is possible for them. That if they stay this course, if they pursue it, they can have very extraordinary lives and travel places and do things that could never do otherwise.
Incredible. Nikita, again, thank you so much. This was amazing interview. And for our audience, if anyone is interested or inspired, please feel free to reach out to Nikita or find him on social media, as he said, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Nikita. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.